Hey, boys! We need to chop up those trees for our janky inventions! To war!
Age of Sigmar Warcry, Sylvaneth versus Skaven. Hey folks, welcome to another Warcry battle report between Treebeard's children and the Poop Rats. I am particularly excited about this one because I'm running 2 brand new warbands. With that, I hope I don't screw anything up. And on a side note, this Plague Priest here is not a part of Warcry at this point in time, so this model is going to be using the Grey Seer stat block for this battle. I just wanted a nice looking Pestilence Skaven warband. So with that out of the way, let us flip some cards and see what is in store for this combat. For the Sylvaneth in the hammer, we have a Kurnoth Hunter with his glorious orange bow and a helpful Dryad. In the hammer, we have our Kurnoth Leader with a number of other little Dryad buddies. And finally, in the dagger, we have a carbon copy of those in the hammer squad. For the disease-ridden Skaven, in the hammer, we have our Plague Priest who is our Grey Seer and 3 standard Plague Monks with swords. In our shield, we have our Plague Monk Leader with his book, backed by 4 other Plague Monks. And finally, in the dagger, we have 3 more Plague Monks with dual blades. Now onto the cards. For the terrain card, we turn over quite an open battleground. This means those Sylvaneth bows should be getting line of sight, but those rats can easily get to them. Now onto the deployment, and we turn over Encircle. It looks like this battle a majority of the fun may be taking place in the bottom corner, and off-camera both warbands rolled for choosing deployment, and the Sylvaneth won, taking the blue deployment zone. Now onto the victory card, and we get Hunt for Glory. So for this battle plan, we will place an objective in the center of the board. The Skaven will choose to place an objective right where they are starting the game, and the Sylvaneth will place one on the opposite corner of the board, but still in view of the Skaven place objective. And at the end of each battle round, a warband gets a point for controlling an objective. At the end of battle round 3, we count up the points and see who is victorious. And finally, for the twist card, we flip over Eager for the Fight. So all fighters gain an extra inch of movement this battle. So I will start setting up all the fighters available for the first battle round. As of now, I see a slight advantage to the Skaven for their sheer numbers, but we shall see if those Kurnothi bows can strike down the horde of rats. Let's move on to turn 1, Initiative. To start off, the Sylvaneth will roll their 66, and they end up getting 3 doubles. The Skaven will then roll and they get a double and a number of singles. The rats will take their wild die and turn a single into another double, and the trees will not spend their wild die and pass the turn over to the Skaven. The Plague Monk here will start things off, and with that twist card, double move a total of 14 inches and get right on top of that far objective, holding it for the Skaven. After this little guy's turn, we will move things over to the Kurnoth Hunter, who will attempt some shots into the rats to thin down the herd. The first attack goes through, hitting on 3s, and deals in 7 damage, but this forces the Tree Bowmaster to fire again, taking the rat down with ease, revealing the objective. This moves things over to another monk who will use the rush ability and charge forward a total of 16 inches to get closer to that far objective. These rats want to try to take advantage of the thin Sylvaneth numbers while they can. This then goes to the final activation for the Tree Folk, and this Dryad will move up and over the deadly terrain and fall down, also spending her extra movement to advance up to a monk. After some dice are rolled for the deadly terrain and the fall, damage is carried out. This Dryad will then use the double ability Draw from the Spirit Song and heal all of her wounds back. For her second action, she will attack into the Plague Monk, hitting on 4s, and deals in 5 damage, and almost takes down the monk. For the rest of the activations, we will do them all at the same time. All of these Plague Monks and their leader will double move up and spread out around the objective. They want to give themselves plenty of room to move around and hold this objective, and they know that a lot of Sylvaneth reinforcements are popping in soon and they want to prepare for that. After all of these moves, we end Battle Round 1. In regards to victory points, the Skaven hold the left objective, giving them 1 victory point. In the center, the Sylvaneth are doing their job holding that point, and of course on the far right, the Plague Monks have that surrounded. At this time, it is 2-1 in favor of the Skaven. Will things change in Battle Round 2? Let's find out and move on to some initiative. Sylvaneth will start things off by rolling up their dice, and they get a pair of doubles and a couple singles. For Clan Pestilens, they end up rolling a triple and a few singles. They have the initiative and will turn a single into a double, while the Sylvaneth will turn both of their doubles into triples. A roll-off will commence for the turn, and the Skaven have the first move. But this is not before the Sylvaneth reinforcements show up, and there are a lot of them. It may be tough for those rats to hold some of these objectives. We will start things off with the Skaven leader, who is reading from the Necronomicon. He will now take his 7-inch movement and get on the step, barely in range of the hunter, and attack in. This little guy hits on 5s and manages a big 8 damage. And then with that triple, he will use the Inspiring Presence ability and give his monk ally the next chance to go next. And so he will. This little monk will then double move up and do a cheeky play to get up in base contact of the far Kurnoth hunter and prevent him from using that dangerous bow of his, and then end his activation. Frustrated at the situation, this hunter will try and take out this monk with close combat, hitting on 5s and deals in 6 damage on the first strike, but 3 more on the second, taking out the rat. He will then use the Inspiring Presence ability as well and give the Dryad the next turn. This Dryad will use her first action to move up and get within just 1 inch of the Plague Monk and attack in, hitting in on 4s and only deals in a single point of damage. A Plague Monk will then go and start to focus on gaining more forces on the second objective. With a double move, this little guy will travel over the steps, climb up and over some deadly terrain, and somehow manage to take no damage from the spikes, and then end his turn right on the top of the center objective, which the Skaven now hold. That ends his activation, and we go over to another Dryad who will attempt to finish off this rodent, hitting on 4s and deals 2 damage on the first attack, and on the second does at least 1 more point, taking down the already damaged rat. But that was 2 activations ending its turn, which means he is unable to move into the objective zone. Next, we move over to another monk who will decide to get in a better protective spot away from the bows and hide in this little alcove and pass his turn over. The other Kurnoth hunter will then go and take a long-range shot into the monk that is far, far away. Hitting on 3s, the first attack is a terrible roll, and so is the second, only dealing 2 damage to the monk. That was not good at all for the trees. A Plague Monk is next and will use his first action to take his extended movement and get barely within 1 inch of a Dryad and attack in using the Onslaught ability to boost up one of his attacks, hitting on 4s in this case and deals in 2 damage to the Dryad. After this, a Dryad not hindered down by a monk will use the double rush ability and get down and start the process of taking over the Skaven held objective. The last activation for the rats goes to this Plague Monk here, who will attack into the imposing Dryad. Hitting on 4s, the first attack deals in a point of damage, and the second, only a couple more, leaving this Dryad with plenty more health to spare. As this was the last Skaven activation, the Dryad will attack into the monk in front of it. Hitting on 4s, the first attack deals 5 damage, and the second is more than enough to take down another monk. Her friendly neighborhood Dryad will then double move and get over to take control of the Plague Monk previously held objective and pass the turn over. And the final activation is this Kurnoth hunter who is in base contact with the monk. He will stab in, hitting on 4s, and deals a total of 6 damage for both of his attacks, not being able to finish the monk off. So this will end Battle Round 2. The far objective is still being held by the Skaven. For the center objective, the Kurnoth hunter is now outnumbered 2-1, so the monks take that as well. But the far objective has been captured by the Sylvaneth, and good thing they did. The score now stands at 4-2 in favor of the Skaven. In the next battle round, the trees have to control all the objectives to win the game. This may be a stretch, but let's move on to some initiative and find out. For the Sylvaneth, they roll their 66 and end up getting a pair of doubles and a couple singles. For the Skaven, they roll their dice and they get 3 doubles. This grants the trees the initiative and they decide to ramp up a double to a triple, and the Skaven will do the same. But before the trees get to start, the final fighters enter the battle. 4 more rats have entered the battlefield. Now, we move on to the first activation. The Kurnoth Hunter leader will go first and try to clear out this middle objective a bit more. He will attack twice and attempt to weaken the Plague Monk leader. Hitting on 4s, and with both of his attacks only deals in 4 damage. Now, it is a huge risk here, but the leader is going to use the 666 for the double ability, Trample Underfoot. On 6 dice, the leader needs 2 of them to be 4 or higher to kill the rat. And after the roll, the risk actually pays off and the monk is taken down. But that objective is still technically held by the Skaven. And now, it is their go, where a monk will attack into an already injured dryad. Hitting on 4s, the attack deals in a weak 1 damage, but then lands 9 on the next attack, taking down the fighter. The last thing the Sylvaneth need right now is less fighters. But they have the next activation, where this hunter will desperately attempt to take out a monk and heavily damage the Skaven leader. The archer will go for the long shot here, hitting on 3s into the monk, and deals in only 4 damage. He was hoping for a little bit more here. For the second attack, he will shoot into the monk leader, and on 4s, deals in a solid 7 damage. The Sylvaneth still have a plan C in the works. Next, a Plague Monk will do an extremely cheeky move and run with his little legs over to the other hunter that is yet to activate, and force him into melee combat. This took a double move, so this will end the rat's turn. Alright, so now this is plan C. This dryad is in the exact range to move around the terrain and get in combat range of the rat. And if she kills it, she takes the objective. So, hitting on 4s here, and pushes in 3 damage, which was enough to take down the already heavily damaged rat. A small speck of light is showing here for the trees. But next is our Plague Priest, who is a stand-in for the Greyseer. And because this rat wants to, he is going to use the double 4 for the Consume Warpstone ability. So, on a 4-up, and which we got 2 there on the roll, we can add 2 to the damage of all successful ranged attack hits. So, the first range blast goes into the dryad and deals that boosted 5 damage. And the second attack does the exact same thing, taking out the tree. So the next activation will go to the Sylvaneth. But after looking over the board state, there is just about no chance the trees can capture all 3 objectives to become victorious in this battle. The left objective they hold, the center objective the Skaven hold, and the right objective, well, will definitely be outnumbered by the end of the round. With only 3 more activations, they don't see a point in continuing the battle, and they forfeit. So, this means the victory goes to the Skaven. Unfortunately, that victory condition set today was a little in favor of the warband with more models, and that showed in this battle. At times, I thought those bows were going to rally and take down numerous rats, but when they got stuck into close combat, they are as only good as a standard dryad. The trees put up a good fight, but the disease-ridden rats were just too much to handle. Overall, a good battle, and I hope you, the viewer, enjoyed it as well. There are still numerous warband combinations and fights that we have not yet seen on this channel, so stick around and see what other Warcry shenanigans we get into over the next long while. I want to thank you all for watching, and of course, happy gaming.